A lot of bad things are happening to young kids and young minds, and their minds are being formed. And we have to do something about maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
The Department of Justice accused the Trumps of violating the Fair Housing Act, arguing they were turning away renters based on race and color.
Donald Trump was fined by the state of New York for deliberately pursuing policies that kept black people out of his apartment buildings. Is that an act of violence? Or would Donald Trump just say he was doing good business? We have a problem in this country in terms of the way that we think about violence.
It's not about the game, it's about the person you are.
Brutality in games can signify a lot of different things about the game. It doesn't just have to be brutality for the sake of, I just love gore. It makes me feel like it's a shame that the mainstream doesn't acknowledge all the games that do brutality really well, or have it there for a reason, to make a point.
I guess the question would be, where's the evidence? If you look at the history of social violence or violent crime in the United States, there's no real correlation between that and the rise of video games. Literature and art have been blamed historically for all kinds of social ills.
Violent video games don't make violent people.
No one says video games make people beat their children or their wives. And people, by the way, used to say about Tom and Jerry cartoons that they would, inure children to violence. And what's worth saying is that when people say this, they are referring, first of all, specifically to one kind of video game, which is first-person shooters. From the beginning of Columbine forward, and the Columbine shooters played Doom, right? That they refer specifically to first-person shooters. They're the most gender-segregated genre of modern gaming, and that demographic is young white men. In France, young white men don't commit mass murders at the same rate as in the United States, nor do they in Austria or Germany or Australia or China or anywhere else, because no other country has the kinds of gun laws that we have.
I've played hours of Call of Duty. I don't like guns. I'm not gonna shoot one. That's just not me. And it's never been like, well, I shot a whole bunch of people in Call of Duty, time to do this in real life. There's never been that interest.
It just makes me feel like it's a shame, because games are beautiful things. I really think gaming is an art. Like certain games, a lot of games actually are could be considered art. There's much more to video games than just God of War. I think that's a beautiful thing.
There are clearly now, especially, and I would say in the last 15 years especially, video games and video game makers, designers, individual producers, who think of themselves as pushing the boundaries between what you might think of as popular or mainstream video games and indie video games that aspire to some of the kinds of complexity that we associate with high art.
If anything, video games have worked out my reasoning skills and worked out my reactions and how quick I am to figure things out or assess situations, the way I think through complex problems, because that's what you need to be able to do. I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for video games. Middle school, specifically, and early high school, there was a lot of bullying towards me. I was always a smaller kid. I think by the time I made it to high school, I was 5-something on the low end and 90 pounds. I was getting bullied and I couldn't do anything to fight back. I would be at school and I was weak, but whenever I got home and I turned on that game, I was the cool kid. That was insane.
That video games to me are what drinking is to a lot of other people. Because video games take you somewhere else. They take you into a different mindset.
Video games give people a lot of pleasure. They let people inhabit fun imaginary worlds. When people are playing together, either side by side in real life or online together, it gives them opportunities to work with other people. So, if you're participating in a World of Warcraft raid with 30 other people and you are taking on a leadership role and helping organize strategy and tactics, or if you take on a role in your clan and destiny, and help bring people together and create social sort of structures, those are no different to me from the kinds of opportunities that are offered interpersonally by something like participating in Thon, or participating in any other kind of social or sport, team-oriented sport activity in which you're basically working together with another group of people to accomplish something. You know, the question with video games is not what do they mean today, but if we are trying to do the serious work of understanding our culture, what do they mean in the long run? You know, we're still really, I mean, the thing to say about video games is we're 50 years in. We don't know what a video game really is. What's incumbent upon us is to be careful and smart about understanding where we are in the development and life cycle of aesthetic and culture. That it is way too early to really even understand.